Consumer Reports found that 98% of vehicles don't need any oil added between scheduled changes. Yet car manufacturers now officially claim burning a quart of oil every 600 to 1200 miles falls within normal range. This is the story of how automakers quietly rewrote the rules on what normal means, and why that decision already cost them over $1 billion in lawsuit settlements. If you drive a Toyota, Subaru, GM truck, Hyundai, Kia, BMW, Audi, or Honda, you need to hear what comes next. I'm going to walk you through how this happened, which brands got caught, and exactly what steps you can take if your dealer tries to convince you that your oil-burning engine is working as designed. Picture this situation because it happens every single day across America. Someone buys a brand new car, maybe their first new car ever, and they're excited about it. They follow the maintenance schedule, take care of everything by the book, and somewhere around 30,000, 40,000, maybe 50,000 miles, they notice their oil level dropping between changes. They bring it to the dealer expecting answers, and the service advisor looks them dead in the eye and tells them that's normal, that the car is designed to do that. Standing there in disbelief, this person is thinking they just spent $30,000 or $40,000 on this thing, and now they need to carry extra oil in their trunk. The answer from the manufacturer is yes, and according to the official specifications, that behavior is now completely acceptable. BMW claims your engine can burn a quart of oil every 750 miles and still fall within spec, while Audi considers a quart every 600 to 1200 miles perfectly fine. Toyota, Subaru, Hyundai, Kia, and GM all adopted similar standards over the past decade. Here's where the math gets ridiculous. Driving 10,000 miles between oil changes with BMW's allowed consumption rate means adding 13 quarts of oil during that time, which amounts to more than 3 complete oil changes worth just for topping off. What the data actually reveals tells a different story. Consumer Reports surveyed nearly 500,000 vehicles and discovered that 98% of them don't need any oil added between changes. When a manufacturer insists that burning a quart every 1,000 miles is normal, they're describing the worst performing 2% of vehicles and trying to pass that off as the standard. None of this is just an inconvenience either, because over $1 billion in class action settlements proved that courts agreed these were defects, not normal operation. So what changed? Why are new cars burning oil when older cars didn't have this problem? The answer comes down to fuel economy. The government keeps raising the requirements for how many miles per gallon cars need to get. And to hit those numbers, engineers had to make some trade-offs. The first big change was piston rings. These are the little metal rings that seal the gap between your pistons and the cylinder walls. In older engines, these rings had strong tension that kept them pressed tight against the walls. But that tension creates friction, and friction costs you fuel economy. So engineers reduced the tension in modern piston rings by about 45%. Less friction, better gas mileage. But here's the trade-off. Those lower tension rings don't seal as well, especially when carbon deposits build up or when the engine switches between different operating modes. The second change was oil viscosity. Your grandparents probably used thick oil like 10W40 or even 20W50 in their cars. Today, over 70% of new vehicles require super thin oil like 0W20 or even 0W16. This thin oil flows easier, which reduces friction and improves fuel economy by 1 or 2%. But thin oil can also slip past worn rings more easily. The third factor is turbocharging. Manufacturers love turbos because they let you get V6 power from a 4-cylinder engine, which saves weight and improves fuel economy. But turbos run extremely hot, and that heat breaks down oil faster and can damage seals over time. If you're finding this helpful, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. I put out videos like this to help you avoid expensive problems and stop getting ripped off at the dealership. Now let's keep going. Toyota's 2AZFE engine might be the most famous oil-burning engine of the last 20 years, and it taught a lot of people that even the most reliable brands can have serious problems. This 2.4-liter 4-cylinder powered the Camry, RAV4, Scion TC, Scion XB, Corolla Matrix, and several other models from 2006 to 2015, which put it in approximately 1.9 million vehicles on American roads. The problem was the piston rings and the tiny holes in the pistons that are supposed to drain oil back into the crankcase. Carbon buildup would clog those drain holes, and the low-tension rings couldn't scrape the oil off the cylinder walls properly. So, oil would get into the combustion chamber and burn. Owners started noticing the problem around 45 to 75,000 miles. Their oil levels would drop, sometimes by a quart every 1,000 miles or less. They'd take it to the dealer and get told it was normal. Toyota eventually acknowledged the problem in a technical service bulletin in 2011 and later expanded coverage through a warranty enhancement program. If your vehicle failed their oil consumption test, they'd replace all the pistons and rings, which is a 14 to 16-hour repair that costs $2,000 to $7,000 when you're paying out of pocket. The class action lawsuit was filed in 2014, and Toyota's extended warranty coverage went up to 10 years or 150,000 miles for affected vehicles. Subaru owners ran into similar problems with the FB Series Boxer engines in 2011 to 2015 vehicles. The Forester, Impreza, Crosstrek, Legacy, and Outback all had issues. The root cause was the same as Toyota. The piston oil control rings weren't doing their job properly. Subaru eventually acknowledged the problem in a technical service bulletin that documented surface treatment change to oil control piston rings as the issue. The class action settlement covered more than 665,000 vehicles. Subaru extended the warranty from 5 years and 60,000 miles to 8 years and 100,000 miles. If your vehicle failed the oil consumption test, they'd install a redesigned short block assembly that cost around $4,000. Subaru's threshold for failure was stricter than some other manufacturers. If your engine burned more than about 10.5 ounces of oil in 1,200 miles, you qualified for the repair. General Motors faced one of the largest judgments in automotive history over oil consumption in their trucks and SUVs. The problem centered on something called active fuel management, which GM marketed as a fuel-saving feature. When you're cruising at highway speeds and don't need full power, the system shuts down half the cylinders to save gas. Sounds smart, right? The problem is what happens inside those deactivated cylinders. When a cylinder is firing normally, the combustion pressure pushes the piston rings outward against the cylinder wall, creating a tight seal. When the cylinder shuts off, that pressure goes away, and the rings don't seal as well. Oil can slip past into the combustion chamber. GM also had a pressure relief valve that sprayed oil onto the bottom of the pistons during 4-cylinder mode, which made the problem worse. Owners of Chevrolet Silverados, Suburbans, Tahoes, GMC Sierras, Yukons, and Cadillac Escalades with a 5.3, 6.0, or 6.2-liter V8 engines started experiencing oil consumption and other problems. A federal jury hit GM with a verdict of over $100 million, and the final settlement reached $150 million. Class members received somewhere between $2,000 and $3,400 each. GM's technical service bulletin authorized dealers to install an oil deflector and updated valve covers, but that fix arrived too late for many owners who'd already suffered engine damage. Hyundai and Kia faced the largest combined settlement at around $760 million, plus another $210 million in civil penalties from the federal government. But here's what makes this case different. It wasn't just about oil consumption. The defect in their Theta 2 engines caused engines to seize completely, sometimes at highway speeds. And in some cases, engines caught fire. The problem traced back to the manufacturing process. Metal debris from machining the crankshaft got left inside the engine and restricted oil flow to the connecting rod bearings. Without proper lubrication, those bearings would wear out, the engine would seize, and sometimes the friction would generate enough heat to start fire. Over 200 non-collision fire complaints had been filed by 2018. The affected models included the Hyundai Sonata, Santa Fe, Tucson, and Elantra, plus the Kia Optima, Sorento, Sportage, Soul, and Forte from various years between 2010 and 2021. What made this case explosive was a whistleblower. A Hyundai quality engineer named Kim Gwang-ho revealed that the companies knew the defect was more widespread than they initially told regulators. He received a $24 million whistleblower award from NHTSA, which was the first ever issued. If you thought mainstream brands had problems, wait until you hear about the luxury segment. BMW and Audi redefined adding oil as routine maintenance rather than a warning sign, essentially telling customers that topping off between changes was just part of ownership. Consumer Reports discovered that BMW 5 Series V8 engines burn excessive oil at 27 times the rate of the average vehicle. 27 times. BMW's official response came through a technical service bulletin advising dealers to recommend adding 2 quarts when the low oil warning illuminates. The company even sells a traveling case for oil, designed specifically for trunk storage. Audi's 2.0 TFSI engines from 2009 to 2017 suffered from defective piston ring design, with repair costs ranging from $5,000 to $10,000 for piston replacement up to $27,000 for complete engine replacement. Audi's settlement provides 75% coverage for repairs completed within 9 years or 90,000 miles. Honda owners face a different but equally frustrating issue. Instead of oil levels dropping, they rise. Honda's 1.5-liter turbocharged Earth Dreams engine has a problem called oil dilution. Unburned fuel leaks past the piston rings and mixes with the engine oil. Over time, your oil level actually goes up, but the oil itself becomes contaminated with gasoline. This mainly happens in cold weather when you're taking short trips. The engine never gets hot enough to burn off the accumulated fuel in the oil. China actually recalled 350,000 Honda vehicles for this issue in 2018. In the United States, Honda issued no safety recall. They just put out technical service bulletins and software updates. A class action settlement was approved in 2020, extending the powertrain warranty to 6 years and providing software updates in 21 cold weather states. Honda also settled a separate lawsuit for V6 engine oil consumption, affecting over 1.5 million Accord, Odyssey, Pilot, and Crosster models from 2008 to 2013. Here's something important you need to understand. Before any manufacturer will consider your oil consumption a warranty issue, they make you go through something called an oil consumption test. The dealer changes your oil, fills it to exactly the full mark, then seals the system with tamper-proof devices on the dipstick, drain plug, and oil filler cap. They tell you to drive a specific distance, usually somewhere between 1,200 and 3,000 miles, depending on the manufacturer. Then you come back and they measure how much oil is gone. Sounds fair, right? Here's where it gets tricky. Different manufacturers have different thresholds for what counts as a failure. Subaru says you fail if you burn more than about 10 ounces in 1,200 miles. GM says a quart in 2,000 miles. Some manufacturers set the bar so high that even significant oil consumption doesn't qualify as a defect. Consumer complaints describe dealers overfilling the oil at the start of the test, using different oil weights that might affect results, and telling customers their consumption is within specifications, even at rates of a quart every 600 miles. One owner filing a complaint with NHTSA about a 2015 Subaru Forester said the tech told them they'd owned several new cars and never had to add oil between changes. The tech made them feel like it was nothing to worry about and never mentioned that Subaru had documented issues with oil consumption in the past. This is why documentation matters. Keep every receipt. Write down your oil level every time you check it. Take photos with timestamps. If you ever need to pursue a lemon law claim or join a class action, that paper trail is your best weapon. So if your car is burning oil and the dealer is telling you it's normal, what are your options? First, request the oil consumption test in writing. Make the dealer document everything. If they refuse to perform the test, or if they say your consumption is within specifications, get that in writing too. Second, file a complaint with NHTSA. Go to nhitsa.gov and report your problem. This creates a federal record that can trigger investigations. NHTSA administered nearly 900 safety recalls affecting over 55 million vehicles in 2020, And many of those investigations started because enough consumers file complaints. Third, look into your state's lemon law. These laws vary by state, but they generally protect you when a vehicle has a defect that substantially impairs its safety, use, or value. California has the strongest lemon law in the country and only requires 2 repair attempts for serious defects or 4 attempts for less severe issues. And here's the best part. If you win, the manufacturer pays your attorney fees. Fourth, check if there's an existing class action settlement you can join. Many of the settlements I've mentioned in this video have websites where you can look up your VIN and see if you qualify for extended warranty coverage or reimbursement. And finally, know your rights under federal law. The Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act prohibits manufacturers from voiding your warranty just because you used a non-dealer shop for service. If they deny a warranty claim, make them prove in writing that something you did caused the problem. Here's what all of this comes down to. Car manufacturers made engineering choices to improve fuel economy, and some of those choices sacrificed long-term reliability. When owners started complaining, the manufacturers didn't admit there was a problem. Instead, they rewrote the definition of normal to include oil consumption rates that would have been considered defective 10 or 20 years ago. Over $1 billion in class action settlements proves that courts saw through this strategy. GM paid $150 million. Hyundai and Kia paid over $760 million plus government penalties. Toyota, Subaru, BMW, Audi, and Honda all settled lawsuits over engines that burn too much oil. 98% of vehicles don't need oil added between changes. When a manufacturer tells you burning a quart every 1,000 miles is normal, they're not giving you an engineering fact. They're giving you a legal defense designed to avoid paying for repairs. If this video helped you understand what's really going on with oil-burning engines, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me if your car has had oil consumption issues. I want to hear your story. Thanks for watching.